Building the innovative organisation. Teams matter, and they're much more than simply groups of people. A football team is not just 11 players. They work together. When they play as a team, they can achieve far more than as individuals. Once again, a great deal of research on effective innovation teams and the sorts of things which make those happen. They don't happen by accident. The sorts of things that matter are clearly defined tasks and objectives. They know what they're doing. Stretching goals, this stretching commitment to something into the future, and a support for getting there. Effective team leadership. Leaderless teams are possible, but many successful teams have a team leader, not necessarily driving with power and authority, but nonetheless getting the best out of the team. Teams have different roles. Different people contribute different things in organizations and teams, and getting the balance between the key roles and matching them to what individuals are best and comfortable at doing, their behavioral styles. Teams argue. There's conflict, and that's healthy. In any good creative enterprise, people will have different views, and that's encouraging, as long as the conflicts don't fester, but they're resolved in a positive way. The organization outside of the team needs to know what's going on. There needs to be communication between the team and its wider organization. And we need to think very hard about the way in which teams actually form. There's a very famous phrase, forming, storming, norming, performing. It goes back to the work of an American researcher called Tuckman. And basically it's a very simple model to help us understand what typically happens, the group dynamics. When you bring a group of people together, particularly if they've not met before, there's a lot of coming together, followed by a lot of argument, storming, people arguing, jockeying for position, challenging their views, a lot of conflict. When the team is going to be successful, they gradually agree common ways of working. They create group norms. This is the way we're going to work as a team. And those norms then help them to perform. So effective teams for innovation don't just happen. There are a number of key things associated with delivering that. Now here's a map about who might get involved in innovation in the organization. Vertically, the kind of innovation from relatively low impact, do what we do better, to the more dramatic high impact, and the horizontal axis, the number of different people who might be involved. Now, typically, high performing, high impact innovation, the sort of do radical, do different innovation, is delivered by a specialist team. They're trained, they're skilled, they are the innovation experts. But we've learned that many others can contribute, particularly when we're talking about the do what we do better, incremental innovation. Classically, this is the way where the quality movement has revolutionized the way organizations work, and where lean thinking and lean teams make a big difference. A lot of people helping the organization do what it does better. But increasingly we're seeing it's also possible to create teams from there who are entrepreneurial, behaving like startups inside the organization. So the challenge here in this map is to say, of all the employees, how many of them do we engage in innovation? And of course the eventual answer is we could involve everyone. This idea of high involvement innovation is very simple in theory. Basically, every employee has a possibility to contribute to innovation. As one manager memorably put it, I realize now, with every pair of hands, I get a free brain. This is a tremendous resource for innovation, particularly in today's complex environment. But it isn't going to happen by accident. What we've learned from a great deal of research is there are a number of features around building the culture to enable high involvement. Which brings us to the idea of creative climates and organization culture. We can think of climate as a kind of organizational weather. Is this warm and sunny? Can things blossom and grow? Or is it wild and windy and things are dashed down to the ground? And it's very important to think how individuals in an organization experience that environment. Once again, plenty of research around creative climates, and the sorts of things which consistently show up are trust and openness. If you trust people, if the organization is open and allows them space, surprisingly perhaps, they perform very well. But particularly, they respond to challenges. This idea again of stretching goals and being involved in the innovation process. Providing them with support and space for innovation. A lot of discussion these days about Google and its 20% policy, but this really borrows from an idea 3M have used for decades, giving people 15% of time and really behind that, the permission to explore and play. Now these are all clear messages about support and space. Innovation matters and we're going to give you the support and space to do it. People will argue and they'll argue and challenge the organization. Finding ways to allow that rather than trying to stifle it is an important part of a creative climate. Allowing for risk-taking, encouraging risk-taking, and the other side of that, when people take risks and things go wrong, not blaming or punishing, but using that as an opportunity to learn. Giving people freedom, the ability to act independently. That's the reverse of do as you're told, just stick to the job you're being told to do. That kind of organization does correlate highly with a creative climate. And over time, that climate, that passing weather, becomes the way we do things around here. That's a simple definition of an organization culture. It's how we work. But actually we know quite a lot about culture for innovation. And in particular, it's built up. It's a kind of hierarchy. This triangle model particularly belongs to a man called Edgar Schein, who looked a lot at the challenge of building an organization culture. His argument is that at the bottom, it starts with what individuals value, what they matter to them, and what they believe. That builds, as they interact with others, to shared values and beliefs, the group norms that become the way we as a group do things. And that shape what they do. That shapes their behavior. Behavior follows from what we believe in. And over time, as we get up to the organization, these become behavior patterns, routines, patterns of behavior which become embedded, the way we do things around here. And significantly, once we've got those ways of doing things in routine fashion, they become part of the organization's structure. They become visible, they're artifacts. They're the policies, the processes. Perhaps we see symbols and examples, evidence of how our culture behaves. Now, this idea of artifacts isn't new. We know a great deal about ancient Egypt, despite the fact that none of us have ever met an ancient Egyptian. We've learned by archaeologists studying their artifacts, what they left behind, the paintings on their walls, their sculptures, things that tell us a great deal about how they lived their lives, what mattered to them, how things were structured, the way they did things round there. And it's the same with organization culture. So, let's try and summarize this brief overview of building an innovative organization. First of all, we should never forget that innovation is fundamentally about people, and so it's not going to involve a machine, it's going to involve a multiplayer game where we're using teams and a wider organization to create and deliver value from ideas. But this needs construction and continuing updating, continuing development. And the key elements that we've learned are associated with this: a shared vision and a commitment to that innovation vision, innovation leadership, an appropriate structure, key individuals, a high involvement approach which sees everyone as an innovation resource, a creative climate which provides the environment, the context in which people can feel supported, allowed to take risks, and one which over time becomes the culture, the way we do things around here, built up of beliefs, shared behaviors, routines, and artifacts that reinforce the way we do things in this innovative organization.